Hey, Flowmies, it's time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast. So this week we are interviewing Anthony Padlo. Now, if you remember, he was one of our winners of the Flowmie of the Year awards that we handed out. And he's going to be interviewed by the person who nominated him, our very own moderator, Kory Klimas. So it's a really neat interview. If you remember, we had interviewed Anthony before. I think he was in the first season of the Flowcast. And so this is kind of like a where are they now segment. We get to find out how things have gone. When we first interviewed him, he had just started his own business. Now it's been a couple of years since that he's been running it. We're going to find out just how things have gone, the challenges that he's faced. But he also just has some really nice words of encouragement for those of you who are starting out but perhaps struggling about just kind of hanging in there and busting through those challenges. So you're going to really enjoy the interview. So now let's listen in as Kory and Anthony talk.
All right. This is Kory Klimas here with Into the Flow podcast. I'm here with Anthony Padlo. This is Anthony's second podcast interview. First one was with Gabe about 2 years ago. So we're going to kind of pick up where Gabe left off. But before we do that, why don't we just give everybody a quick rundown of your background, when you got started in window cleaning, how you got started, and how you ended up where you are today.
Sounds great, man. Kory, it's good to talk to you. Good to see you. I'm
Absolutely.
Anthony. I am the Polish window cleaner from Northwest Indiana. Been doing this since about 2000, right about when I turned 18. It was just a summer gig. Kind of fell in love with it. Here I am, almost 22 full years later, still doing it. Definitely worked for others longer than I've been working for myself, but that's pretty much it. Just a sweet squeegee slinger.
Squeegee slinger, aren't we all? So so you started Wonder Window Cleaners in 2019, is that correct?
Yeah. That was
2019. So you've go ahead.
I was just going to say I started it around May. The plan was really to wait until 2020 to start, and I was just kind of making contacts, getting things ready. Long story short, after a conversation with my boss, it just ended up turning out that I started halfway through the year. And as we all know what happened at the end of 2019, I'm kind of glad things shook out the way they did, because I probably would have chickened out and said, well, we can't do this starting this whole pandemic thing. There's no way it can happen.
Yeah.
Glad
mid 2019, I mean, it had to be looking pretty good. I mean, you're looking at an economy that's rolling really strong. Exactly. Everything seemed to be setting up really good to jump into a business, and you jump into your business, and then about 6 months later, surprise, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yep.
So that has to throw a wrench in the wheel. How did you pivot and adjust to running a business in a pandemic where a lot of businesses were shutting down and maybe customers were getting a little weary about having people in their homes? How did you make that pivot?
Really, there wasn't a huge pivot in the services that I offered. It was just a large pivot in the way that I presented them. I kind of leaned heavily into the whole customer service angle. And frankly, I've never been much of a commercial route guy to begin with. But I just kind of gave up on expecting to hear from any restaurants or mom and pop barbershops for a while.
Yeah.
What I did is I kind of focused on the exterior side of our services and said, hey, look, you're stuck at home. Might as well have a pretty view. So that's kind of, I think I was fortunate enough that some people in my area weren't as quick to want to shut things down as other areas in the country. And that's not me making a statement. That's just, where I live. And so thankfully, it seemed like a big part of this smaller area that I live in here really went into small business anyway. And it seemed like it was just almost symbiotic. They wanted their small businesses around. I sure wanted them to hire me. So it just kind of worked out. And, we definitely didn't do nearly as much interior as I had expected to do. But, that just gave us a chance to focus on the other services like house washing, gutter cleaning, things like that, I might not be on the inside doing your home, but my tickets are still getting larger because I'm doing more of your home anyway.
Now, was that part of your pivot away from window cleaning to sort of branch yourself out to was that something you always wanted to do, the soft washing and the gutter cleaning, or was that something like, all right, I need to kind of make a move because I'm doing most of my work exterior right now, Do I
It
need
was
to
a
make a
natural
move
progression.
towards and branch out a little bit?
I always looked at it as a secondary thing. It was never really something I pushed. But if I had that
Mhm.
customer that said, "Can you clean my siding?" Sure, I'll take care
Yeah.
of you. And that was as far as I really ever thought I'd go with it. But then once
Yeah.
again, when the pandemic started coming, and you're trying to make the most out of every single call you get at that point. And it
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
seemed to be a natural fit, as in, okay, I have the experience and the equipment to do your average house wash. I can't take on a parking garage or a big commercial building or anything like that, but it just seemed to fit so well, and people seemed to want it so much that it did become a main focal point of my marketing. It's kind of funny. Wonder Window
Yep.
Cleaners gets more pressure washing calls and soft washing calls than we do windows at this point. But
Yeah.
that's just kind of
Hey,
how things are.
Hey, you got it. And when you're early on in your business, I found myself doing the same thing when I first started out. You're trying to, you don't want to say no. So even if
Mhm.
it's something, you can do it, but it's not necessarily your forte. I mean, it's not window cleaning, but it's, gutter cleaning. I have the ladders, I have the equipment, I can do this job. Okay, I'm not gonna say no, because my schedule's not filled anyway. So I need to fill it up. While I'm at this house, I might as well go up on the roof. I might as well clean the gutters. I hate soft washing. I hate power washing. I hate working with bleach. I do it occasionally, but I'm not a big fan of it. But it's just one of those things. It's not an avenue I want to go down. But had I been in the same situation that you were in, where you're starting out your business and you're in a pandemic and people are requesting mostly exterior services, maybe they're a little hesitant about letting you in their homes, I would have been all in down that route, and I would have most certainly bought better equipment. I would have got more training. I would have gone down the soft washing route, and who knows, maybe I would have fell in love with it. But the way I was doing 15 years ago, with a 3-gallon backpack loaded with bleach on ladders and maybe a small step up from a homeowner grade power washer, I hated that job so much. I couldn't tell you the amount of times where the backpack would leak and I'd end up with bleach all down my back, and then my clothes are ruined. And it was not my favorite thing. I like staying clean, not ruining clothes. I could stay pretty clean doing window cleaning. So that's the route that I went. But kind of along your point there with the businesses, I kind of was the opposite way at the beginning of the pandemic, where I was thinking ahead. I'm 90 to 99% residential, probably closer to 99. And I was trying to pivot my business towards a little, like dedicating a full day to commercial, like a route.
Sure.
Have a dozen businesses where I'm doing weekly or bi-weekly service. So that way, when the winter came and the residential stopped or slowed, pretty much stops up here, and you have a winter as well, you understand it.
Mhm.
So when the winter came, I'd still have that little bit of income where I'd go out for a day and knock out 10 to 12 storefronts. And then, you can still pick up, $500, $600 or maybe more, depending on how big the route got. But I was just laying the groundwork for this, to dedicate a full day to this year round. And I had a few people biting on it. It looked like it was going to work. So I'm entering the spring of 2019 with all this groundwork laid for this new business model, where I'm going to be doing a little bit more commercial and storefront, and then bang, all of them pull the rug out right from underneath me right at the beginning of the year. I was like, well, that didn't work out the way I planned. So I'm hesitant to go back to that, because the
Sure.
residential is good, but it's still in the back of my mind. Like when spring or when winter rolls around, I'm like sitting at home and I just get stir crazy a little bit, just wondering
Oh,
what I'm going to do to fill the calendar, and I just don't like sitting around idle at home. It's cool for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then it's like, what am I going to do? And I know
that's how it
you
is.
deal with the winter as well. So what's your mindset, on the winter time, on those, the slow months? What do you kind of do to get you through the spring?
Well, financially speaking, it's just kind of it's almost like breathing at this point. If you're in this industry for long enough and you're in a seasonal climate, instinctively you're going to start putting money away as soon as you start making it,
Yep,
because winter's going
absolutely.
to be there eventually. So that's honestly, that's the easiest part, keeping yourself mentally there That's the tough one. I'll tell you what, it's been almost 22 years. If I figure it out this year, I'll let you know. But other than that, I just kind of, I try to keep myself from going crazy. I, have probably too many hobbies. I like to, I jam, I draw, things like
Yep.
that. So for the most part, I'll go visit guys like Mike Schneider's, helping throw junk in his junk hauling business. I'll go see Kevin Hargis in Michigan, and I just try to keep myself busy, even if it's not necessarily profitable work. I'm just trying to keep myself from getting so out of a routine, which is a big thing for me. We're all creatures of habit, and when it's wintertime, it's far too easy for the habit to be sleeping until noon and, eating a Snickers for breakfast kind of stuff. So
routine. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm a big routine guy, and it's more important for me in the winter. And I'll almost change, like, my routine in the spring and the summer and the fall is the same. You wake up at a certain time, you have your jobs laid out, and then after the jobs are done, you're doing phone calls or doing bids or whatever. It's so much easier for me when I'm working. But when I'm not working, my routine becomes so much more important. And like you said, for the mental health aspect, if I am not diligent, wake up, walk the dog, make the coffee, make the kids breakfast. If I'm not diligent about that routine and I start getting lax, I just slowly, my mind just kind of goes to a bad place. And it's just like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not producing anything. I'm not, I'm worthless. And the mental health thing, I mean, you bring up a really good point there. I was actually in my notes here for something to discuss now in this podcast. The mental health in the winter is so hard to stay even keeled when you just stop producing. Like, I'm not bringing anything home. I'm not providing for my family. And when you start getting lazy and out of a routine, I exercise a lot in the winter now, just so I feel like I'm doing something positive and working towards a goal. Just because of that, I've spent too many winters where it's just like I'm on the couch and I'm watching, and the more you're sedentary, the more you feel like, it just kind of drags you down into a hole.
You kind of go from,
it can be a tough.
Yeah, it can be very tough. You go from like hey, I can do a $10,000 week or something like this with my crew, to I put pants on today. All right, that's my.
Got out of pajamas.
And that's probably similar to you. As soon as winter starts and as soon as the phone calls start to slow down, you try to keep yourself to an extent on a similar routine what you're on, and then vacation happens, Christmas holiday happens, whatever have you, and then you just start getting further and further off. So I like your idea of the working out. I need to get my butt. I need to run out of excuses as to why I haven't started up again. But yeah,
it's hard. It's hard. The older you get, the harder it is because it takes you longer to get back in shape. So if you're kind of not doing it throughout the summer, and then you try to, start that engine back up in the winter, it's like, whew, the older you get, I'm almost 40. I think you're about the same. It's just, it gets harder and harder to get that engine moving again. And you get you start to shake a little bit of that rust off, and it feels good. It feels good, but the body certainly doesn't respond like it did 10 years ago. So it's been a bit of a challenge there.
Yeah. Our weight's a roller coaster, especially, when you do get sedentary parts of the year. And it just seemed like the ups and downs were a lot more up and down when I was younger. All that weight that I put on in the winter melts away in the first couple of weeks.
Used to come off quick. Yeah. Now it hangs out. It hangs out for quite a while.
Winter on me right now. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about in the winter. Have you strategized at all anything going forward for 2022? Have you any plans laid out on paper for what you're trying to do to grow your business, or if you're just still trying to build and get the foundation down? What's the plan here for this year, for 2022, for Wonder Window Cleaners?
Well, for this year, we actually decided throughout the course of the winter to kind of slow things down a little bit. The reason I say that is because we were definitely looking at maybe bringing another crew into the mix. At this point, with everything going on just in the economy, and especially in rural areas right now, it is kind of hard, just like everyone else is complaining about. Hard to find people that you trust, and in my opinion, especially when we're talking about sending, people into homes that we go into areas of homes as window cleaners that people's family members don't go into. So,
Yep.
I take that part of things very seriously, and I'd rather stunt my growth a little bit and make sure I have the right person than to just kind of carry on and hope it goes well. That also, the one goal I did not make that I was hoping for, and it's big on my checklist of to-dos before I hire, is to have a property away from my home to start storing my equipment and running from an outside location. Right now, we're still
Yep.
running out of the house, and just with everything that's been in flux, that's I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Since 2019, it's been hard to really say what things are going to look like 3 months from now. And
Yeah.
we're still fragile enough to where I kind of want to just make sure that no matter what, we have our foundation built. So this year we are just my wife's gonna come back into the field with me more.
Okay.
We're just gonna kind of do things a little more old school, like we started to way back when, she and I were still in purple shirts together. We're just gonna work together, take calls together, and just we want to save up. We want to get that foundation nice and strong. That way, when we do start hiring employees, we're not kind of borrowing money to keep things running. And that's something that
Yeah.
I just
The
want
foundation.
Exactly.
The foundation is the most important thing. Once you have that foundation, it's established. I think growing, once you have the right plan in place to recruit and to train and to grow, without that foundation, you're starting off on the wrong foot. So once you have that foundation established, then you start to look at those other pieces and how you're going to set that up with the recruiting the right person. Like you said, you're trusting someone to go into homes, and you're going into some high-end homes. I'm sure you do a lot high-end homes, but like you said, you're going into intimate areas of these houses, like a master bedroom or a master bathroom. You go occasionally, you're into a closet,
Right.
with people's clothes, and you don't want someone in there that you don't know what they're doing in there. Like, what is this person going to be doing when they're in this location of the person's home?
Exactly.
I'm in that room, I'm doing the window, and I'm out of the room. And I always have the same kind of reservations where when I've hired people in the past, and I'll still go to those areas myself. I've never kind of let go of that trust.
Sure.
Of letting someone else to go into those areas and do certain jobs, just because I've failed as a recruiter, and I've failed at doing the due diligence to make sure that I've brought the right person in. So I'm uneasy, but I know it's not all of them. It's partly me as well. So that's one thing when you're getting ready to grow, you do need to, you need to grow and learn yourself as far as your recruiting process and your training process. And that's a big step. That's something that's always been difficult for me, to let go of that.
I don't know that if I'll ever fully be out of it. A lot of people, their main goal is to, I want to get the right people here. So basically my business can run itself when I'm not there. That sounds great. I just don't know if me personally, I'll ever be able to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that
do you feel you're a little bit spread thin as it is now, or are you still able to kind of manage the workload?
Right now I can still manage the workload, but frankly, we are growing constantly. And as I get older, I don't know that, my wife and I will be able to handle it.
Yeah.
We're going to have to, really decide within the next 2 years, I'd say at most, we have to decide whether we want to just keep things small, whether we want to scale a little bit. But, we're going to run out of time here to decide. And I have to be honest with you, being a company guy for as many years as I was, I'm not in a hurry to pull that trigger, one, just because it's nice not having a crew. That's for more than half of my time as a window cleaner. I was also in the management side of things, and it's nice having that load not on my back right now. And
it's a beautiful thing to not have to babysit.
Yes.
people. I mean, people are tough to manage, but again, it kind of brings me back to that point. Like maybe in my past, I was not recruiting the right person, and that's why it felt like babysitting, or maybe I wasn't training or delegating clearly enough. You know, I used to always think it was them, not me, but I'm starting to kind of flip after 15 years of running my own business and hiring and firing and hiring and firing, hiring and having someone quit. And after going through that cycle over and over again, maybe it's not necessarily all them. Maybe I need to change my approach as well. And I mean, it's almost crazy not to. If I want to keep hiring, if I want to grow, and like you said, I don't know that I want to get off the truck completely, but I would love to be able to go, and I coach my kids' sports. I have 3 young kids under the age of 8. I love coaching sports. I want to be able to go and coach at 3:30, in the afternoon, ditch work, and then not worry about, all right, no one's making money right now. Like I need to get away. I don't necessarily want to get all the way away, but I do need to get away. So I'm spread thin in that sense where I need the help, but I'm kind of on the fence with, do I need administrative help first, or do I need a labor? I don't know which way to go. So it's something I'm thinking about and I'm planning. What do you think your first step would be? Would it be more on the administrative side to handle some of the paperwork and the billing and the office stuff, or do you think the labor is more important?
If it were me, I would start looking more at administrative than the labor at this point. It's crazy if you sit there and really think about how much time that eats away from our day, stopping because we're outside and we hear the phone ringing, run to the truck, take down the notes of the next quote, get back to work, that kind of constant back and forth. I'm fortunate that my wife works with me, because without her, I would have definitely felt more of that pinch by now. And frankly, we probably would have had to force an employee in the mix.
Is your wife, is she more on the labor side, or do you guys kind of mix it up and both do a little bit of each side of it?
We kind of mix it up a little bit. I would say that if there is an overall goal, if we were in positions at another company, she would be the office manager, I would be the operations manager. And that's just kind of how we, she keeps me organized. I keep the wheel spinning, and, without her, I don't know where I'd be right now. So that's the great thing about us. I'm fortunate to have a wife that, 1, doesn't want to kill me after working with me as long as we have, and 2, we kind of pick up where the other one slacks off. So that's kind of the things that I'm the weakest in. She's got some strengths and vice versa. So she's not much. She doesn't like really the being in the home, the presentation side of things. I'm just so used to that at this point. That's just kind of my bread and butter. But that being said,
but I think that's probably a thing that we were all uncomfortable with at one point. Because I worked for another company for about 5.5 years, and I was really comfortable when I was working for them. And then the next year I went out on my own, and it was just me going to jobs, and I'd go into some jobs and someone would be standing and watching, or and I got really uncomfortable. Like I used to be so comfortable. I had a crew of people that I was with, and I had a boss that was super cool. And, we'd go into a house and you feel like you kind of feel like you own the place. We have a good system with these people, and I have this support system around me. And then when it was just me in the home, and I had some eyes on me watching, you get a little bit uncomfortable, because now it's just you have no support system. So I do understand that to a sense where, that's something I understand where if, so you said, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I'm with you on that. I think we're getting a little delay there. Sorry. I couldn't tell if we were.
Yeah. We have a little delay.
I think we're good now though.
Yep. Yeah. So, you said the delay has got us good right now. The floor is yours. I'm off.
You're like you're glitching out, like you're in a video game or something, and you're popping across the screen here a little bit. That's all right. We'll just keep going. We'll wing it.
It's all yours. Floor is yours.
All right. I wasn't sure, dude. I'm sorry. Me and you we're having our technology problem here because I swear my phone.
Yeah,
All right.
it's not my thing.
Anyway.
Technology is not my thing.
No.
I could have just flown out. I could have just flown out to Indiana, and we could have done it, face to face. Probably would have come out a little better.
I think you're right. Beer's better in person anyway.
Yep.
So no, we were talking about employees and being in people's homes and kind of getting used to that. And yeah, that's for as long as I worked for other people, you wouldn't think it would be so uncomfortable when you finally do, because all you're really doing is changing your t-shirt. You're still there to do the same service that you did for somebody else. And I don't know if it's just the knowledge that the safety net's not there anymore, that if I somehow screw up terribly, they're going to be calling me, not my boss.
Yeah.
There's nobody else to watch my back, so to speak. So that at first that took some kind of getting used to. So I understand what you're talking about there, but I think after a while I started to relish that. I started to kind of feel a little thrill with the whole, I better get out there and chase work. Otherwise there is no work. There was some newness there, some kind of stakes I hadn't felt before, because, when you're working for somebody else, I just have to show up. The work's going to be there. My equipment's going to be there. I'm going to go do my job. And even as a manager, you get a little more behind the scenes, but you really still don't see what all goes into making sure that there's a job to go to the next day. And so I think that's definitely, there was some fear there, but I love it. I'm glad I did this, and, I'm enjoying that thrill of the hunt, so to speak, a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, and it's a pride thing too when you put your name on it, and it's not another company's name. It's your name, like you said. They're calling you if something is wrong. So you have that. I don't want to use the word pressure, but early on, it is a bit of pressure to perform and to do it right, to make sure when that phone rings again, it's not for, hey, you skipped this, you missed this, you made a mistake here. When the phone rings again, it's, hey, we'd love to have you come back again and do the windows. That's the next time I hear the phone ring. So you for me, the pride, and I'm a perfectionist too. Like, I want everything to look perfect, and no one's looking at glass the way that we're looking at glass. I always say everybody looks through windows. We look at windows. Like, everywhere I go, I'm not looking through the glass. I'm looking at the glass. Like, and I examine every little piece of it, and I'm looking at the window, not through the window. But it's just one of those things when you're running your own business, and if you're someone who takes pride in your work, you're going to feel a little pressure early on to perform and to really knock it out of the park, to make sure, your reputation is going to be what you want it to be. So I understand that uneasy feeling when you first start out. But like you said, you get confident, you get comfortable. My clients now, it's a complete different story than it was 15 years ago when I walk into these houses now, because most of them are the same repeat clients that I've had for 15 years.
Right.
And I'm so comfortable with them. I'm so confident. They've called me back for 15 years. So I've done something right, or maybe there's just nobody else around.
Hey, you know what? That's one of the best parts about the job, though, is the relationship. I mean, it used to be Mrs. Homeowner, nice to meet you, I'm Anthony. And now it's, hey, Sue, how are you? Oh, how's your daughter, Layla? How's she doing? And it's just amazing how quickly it can, evolve from just your standard, here's your check, 9 to 5 kind of bland relationship. And it's fun to put people at ease. That's one of my favorite things about this is you go into that home and maybe they've been burned by somebody in the home service industry in the past. They're kind of expecting the worst. And then they kind of notice, oh, wait, he's got indoor shoes he's putting on. Oh, look, he's got pads on his ladder. Oh, wow. And just the little things that we just do every day, most of us do every day, that just kind of shock these people. And I just love that when you start to see them turn around into not only being more comfortable with you, but enjoying the service in general and looking forward to having it done, rather than, I'm sure you know what I mean, when you get that person that calls, and just from the initial contact, you kind of get the feeling that they're dreading how this is going to go. They're not expecting good. And those are my favorite calls, honestly. I love those.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, they are. And when you start out, like I said earlier, when you feel a little bit uncomfortable on the job that first time, because you want to do a good job, you want to make sure you get the call back. They're uncomfortable too because they've never had you in their house before. And then, as you slowly progress through your business and through, the years of the services, and your skills get better, your relationship with them gets better. Now, like that guy that watched me and made me feel uncomfortable 15 years ago, now I have his garage code, or
Right.
now I know where his key is. And before he flies in from wherever his other home is, I'm at his house by myself. I know I know how to get in. I can go in anytime I want and do the job. But now it's to the point where that relationship and that trust, where it started, where he's standing over my shoulder watching the window, now I have a key to his house. Like that's the progression of the relationship and of the trust between most of my clients, which is, I love my business the way it is now. And I'm on the fence about growing it because I have all the clientele that I want. Right. And everything's perfectly established. All those relationships are established. So it's like do I want to grow? Yes. But do I want to start this process over again with new people and new clients and building that trust again? It's a little bit of that uneasy feeling of, do I want to jump into that water? Sure. And I think the answer is yes. I do want to jump in. And I do want to grow for the reasons I mentioned earlier about, wanting to spend more time with my family and coach and not feel like I'm not producing while I'm doing those things. But it's just going to be tough to, it's going to be tough to make that jump. It's a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling. And I was hoping to kind of pick your brain on this, about. Yeah, I mean, there's processes. I mean, have you put any thought into processes, for training people when you come in? Like, this is your equipment kit that you're going to get, and this is the process you're going to do on the job. Have you put any thought into that, or
I have not
any experience?
All of that down, but at my old job as the manager for the crew, I do have some experience with that kind of stuff, and mm-hmm. I don't want to tell you how to run your business because you and I might do things slightly different. I have a feeling, mm-hmm. Our standard and qualities and things like that are probably, on par with each other, but I can't really tell you how to write your operations because, you're probably going to want your guys to do things maybe a little differently than I do. But what I started to do as I started to think about this stuff for my company was, if I'm having somebody at my house, what do I want to see when they pull up to my front door, when they're knocking on my front door? And I kind of got this because we had some furniture delivery not too long, last fall. And it was just kind of, they got it in the door, and I think they made their way out. They probably made it home without dying. I don't know. But, it's a little touch and go. I wasn't impressed. Let's just put it that way. So, I started thinking about that just from a homeowner's perspective. What are people seeing when I pull into their driveway? And that's always been a big one. And for me, because, presentation is a lot of it. As we were talking mm-hmm. about being in, areas of homes that people aren't used to having people inside, presentation goes a long way. Mm-hmm. I've worked with some guys where their work ethic was great. Their quality was good. But their personality was one where it was either maybe they seemed a little standoffish or shy, what have you. But, you can kind of read the customer and you can see that person is a little uncomfortable. Not that mm-hmm. that this employee's caused a problem, but you need to be a little more enthusiastic, a little brighter. So that's one of the first things for me is, I'm going to sit down, and when I'm doing my interview, when I'm starting my orientation, all of that, this person needs to be able to at least fake some charisma, I guess would be the best way to, throw in a couple.
Yeah, in the service industry, a lot of times you're not an actor, but you have to put on a little bit of an act sometimes when you're going to deal with people. You absolutely have to.
Absolutely. You need to be a little charming. And yep. So that's one thing I think is hard to find somebody that, one, is good at what you have them doing, 2, can put on the show a little bit and charm the clients, and 3, doesn't realize how good they are at those things and then leaves and starts their own company. So that's
that's a fine line there. The charming the clients, it is an important thing, but there's, I had an employee probably back 5 or 6 years ago, and he had a good personality. When I first spoke with him, I was like, wow, this guy carries a good conversation. He's fun to talk to. He came from a military background, so I was like, all right, this guy might have, discipline. If he's in the military, obviously he's got to have the discipline of the schedule of, what a military person, I don't know, I've never been involved, but most of them seem to have pretty good discipline and good conversationalist. But then I bring him to the job and he'll spend 35, 40 minutes talking with the client and not produce. Like, I don't mind talk while you work is fine with me. But if you're standing there and now I'm getting uncomfortable, and a couple of times I could see the employee was also like, all right, this guy's got to shut up. Like, he's overbearing. So, I mean, in the long run, it didn't work out, but it's sometimes that initial reaction you get, or the initial impression you get from someone, in that sense, where I was like, this guy's, it seems like a good guy. He can handle himself with a nice conversation with a new person. He did very well. And then you see that, that characteristic you see the bad side of it. So there's, I have never really found the right combination for myself for hiring. And that's just something I've always struggled with. And from someone from your background, where you've been through a couple different franchises and you've managed, what are the key things that you look for when you did your interview process that you found paid off the most? Well,
I'm not sure what kind of questions you're asking at your interview, but some of the things I wanted to know and I guess this maybe dates me a little bit, but when I'm asking somebody some questions, I always kind of started off with, hey, how'd you get here? Was traffic okay? And things like that. What I was at the time trying to figure out is, are you smart enough to know how to read a street guide? Things like that. That's obviously not, part of it now, but really, you just have Google now, you're fine. But
everybody's spoiled nowadays.
I'm looking for somebody who's looking to make this job their own. I want you to have a personality. I want you to hear the thought process. And back then we paid in a piece rate, commission, however you'd like to call it. I've always called it commission. I kind of don't like calling it commission because it just makes it sound like you're responsible for sales. So when I did interviews, I would explain it as piece rate. You get a piece of every pie you bring in to the shop. So I wanted somebody who kind of looked at that and said, awesome, that's exactly what I want to hear. I can stay out, work later, make more money. I wanted you to be a little ambitious, a little charming, enthusiastic, and frankly, show some common sense and some intelligence when we're having this talk. A guy like that you were describing, I actually had a gentleman like that before, and they get a little too comfortable, and it's great when you can hit that rapport with somebody and have somebody that's willing to charm the customer. I was doing that. I was training this guy. Everything was going well. He got so involved in his conversation with the homeowner that he kind of sits down on the couch, crosses his legs, and he's just talking to her like this. I'm cleaning a ceiling fan. And I'm like, nah. You gotta get up. I'm trying not to kind of shout at him in front of the client. You can see it in her eyes, like, is he really doing that? But she was a sweetheart. She wasn't going to say anything about it. And so I just said, hey, go out to the truck and get me, whatever tool. Just got to get him out for a second. I followed him out and had that conversation with him. And he kind of took offense to what I was trying to say. And so I guess my long-winded story here really means that you can't necessarily trust that what you're seeing in the interview is what that person is going to bring every single day. So
yeah, I think you do see a glimpse of it, but right. What you'll find out, you have to find out sometimes the hard way over a period of time exactly what that person is all about. And that kind of brings me back to the point we were talking about earlier with it is a big step for someone, and I'm still in the same position that you are in a lot of ways, where when the pandemic hit, I rolled it back to pretty much operating solo, and I loved it. It was no babysitting. There was no, no sob stories. Oh, I can't make it to work today because my sister got a flat tire, and
Right.
it's just, you've heard every excuse in the book over the course of time, and you kind of just get desensitized to hearing those excuses. And it was just such a breath of fresh air to kind of, and I was spoiled because I was doing a lot of exterior work. So a lot of my clients, I was just doing outside. So the volume, I was still able to manage. And then when we got into the second year of the pandemic, where I was able to manage that huge spring rush because I wasn't going in the homes. Now the second year, I'm like, oh, I did it last year. I was fine. I'll manage again this year. And now I'm back to doing interior work. I'm trying to do interior, exterior, and double the volume that I did the year before. And I kind of just drove myself absolutely crazy trying to keep up with the volume as just myself. Sure. So I'm realizing physically my body can't do it like that. I mean, did I manage for a year? I did. Mentally, was it good for me? No. Physically, was it good for me? Absolutely not. My body broke down. Mentally, I broke down. So I'm back to this. I need to hire. But how do you get over that trust of giving this responsibility to another person when you're in these places, high-end homes, you're in the bedrooms. Like I just, if I don't have my eyes on it, it's just been I've had such a hard time just giving up that control.
One thing
I don't know that will ever change.
I'm with you on that. I don't know if I'll ever get out of that. And one thing that we are already kind of planning with our first employee, whether that comes later this year or in 23, not fully certain yet, but more likely next year. Anyway, they're going to be riding with me, and I'm going to be their babysitter for the foreseeable future. What that's going to allow me to do is put my wife in the office where she can not have to be in the field with me, focus on all of the follow-ups, the calls, and all the little things that you can kind of get behind on, but do make a huge difference. And that's, what I kind of feel like we're at that stage where if we're going to continue growing, advertising, the basic stuff is fine, but it's the little things. It's the cold calling off of your old existing customer base to see if they want another clean, following up, things like that. Those are going to be the little things she'll be able to do while I'm babysitting the new guy.
And that's a great thing to do. Being proactive, having someone that can be proactive at home with the emails and the phone calls, it takes such a burden off of you rather than, you're out all day hustling, trying to produce, and then come home and then you're managing the few phone calls that you got in first. You take those phone calls, take the voicemails, you return those calls. If you're ahead of the game and you're sending those emails out in advance, hey, this is Anthony from Wonder Window Cleaners. We serviced your home last year in May. I'm just wondering if you're interested in booking. It's so much easier if you have someone on the back end just doing those things. And then it just fills your schedule out ahead. And I'm on the same page as you, where I think administrative is going to be the first step for that very reason, to take that burden off. Just give them, all right, here's my book from last year. All this contact information, you just look through and you can see whose name is on which day and what month and what week. And now you can go on the back end in the computer and find that contact information and send it out. Now you're automating what you've done from the year before.
Right.
And you're taking yourself out of and they don't have to call you. You're not going to get that voicemail from that client because someone's already reached out to them. So I think that administrative move first is definitely a huge. That's the best step in my mind. And like you said, babysitting. You hire someone and you're going to babysit them for a while. I mean, probably a year.
But while you have that administration and administrative help, you have less of a distraction, so you can focus on getting that person to where you want them to be. And so that's why, I am once again fortunate, thankful to have my wife with me doing this, because she can take that burden off while I focus on getting this new hire trained. And if it turns out to be a good guy, let's be honest, probably going to go through quite a few guys until I find that character that I really want. And then I can start imparting my systems, my knowledge, my experience the way I want things done onto that person. And if by some miracle I find that person that I can trust, then I can start to get out of the field. I can find them a helper, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I would say if I didn't have my wife and I were you, I would definitely do administrative first, and then I can focus on making the next Kory. And that's kind of where I'm at. Is I want somebody who's going to do things as close to me as possible without illegally cloning myself.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I can't tell you when I've hired people in the past, the amount of times where, I mean, you've done the trial and error of window cleaning for 20 plus years. Like, a lot of ways that don't work. Like, when I see an employee, show them, all right, this is how I want you to do this style window. And then you walk back and you see them doing it differently in a way that, all right, that's not an efficient way. And then I'm just so frustrated. I'm like, I've done it that way before. It's not going to pay off. It's not the way to do it. Try it this way again. And you show them again, you come back and they're doing it that same bad way again. It's frustrating. Like, I don't know every right way to do things, but I do know a lot of wrong ways to do things because I've learned from doing it the wrong way countless times. And it's just, you're wasting time.
Unfortunately, they are. And that's the one thing that's going to be hard, I think, just because you haven't had to deal with crews as much as I have. And I'm just kind of, maybe there's a little PTSD still there from that. But you're going to find out that you're going to have some time wasted with new guys, because you can show them many times and you can tell them that's not a bad way, or that's not a good way, to take care of that window. There's a better method. Show it to them. But unfortunately, until they beat their head against the wall enough times, there are some things that they're going to have to figure out the hard way. What we have to decide is what's acceptable to us as, the representation of our companies. When I managed somebody else's company and we had a large crew, I got good at being able to put weaknesses with strengths, because it wasn't always my decision to let somebody go or not. So sometimes I had to work with an employee that I would consider less than ideal, but for whatever reason, I wasn't given the green light to terminate that person. So then you're finding, okay, I got a guy like you had that's super chatty, always in the house, mouth moving more than his squeegee. Then I have another employee who, really good producer, loves to just get out there and do the work, doesn't like to chat up with the customers. He's so silent, it kind of weirds people out. Guess what? That's my crew. Hey, you, Chatty Cathy, you're the interior guy, and you, silent, creepy guy, you're going to do the outside stuff, and everyone's going to be happy. So there are ways to work with those people that are less than ideal, but unfortunately, you're going to have to find out where your particular employee's strengths and their weaknesses lie, and you're going to have to decide, are these strengths worth trying to work around their weaknesses, or is this a lost cause? And unfortunately, there's just going to be trial and error with that.
There's a lot of
the whole process.
Yeah, I've ended up with a lot of lost causes, and I know it's not always. Another huge challenge I find, like, even when you train someone, you invest the time with them. You hire them in April, you get them through the spring, you get them really rolling in the summer. They get you through the fall, and then you hit Christmas time, and then you deal with this as well. I always found that those winter months, like, if you can't keep them busy in the winter months, you call them up in the spring, be like, hey, the spring calendar's filling up again. They're moved on to something else. They've already found another job. So that lull, and not everybody experiences this. You got a lot of people, I'd say, I don't know if it's about 50-50 in the US. The northern states, we experience that winter, and the southern states they're able to keep rolling year round. And that's a huge advantage to maintain it. I can't tell you how many times I've got someone to where I want them by the fall, November, we're rolling, everything's great. All right, we start to taper off. I'll touch base with you in March when this calendar starts filling back up. You make that phone call in March, and they've moved on. That 3-month lull is oftentimes as frustrating as anything in the hiring process.
Absolutely. And the flip side to that is I cut my teeth in route work, even though it's not my cup of tea like we talked about earlier. My first job was for a fish franchise, so got plenty of practice with route work, which meant we always had work in our area in the wintertime. You're still going to get people that quit left and right because it becomes a thing. One challenge I think that northern window cleaners have to deal with is, okay, do we try to rest these guys for the 3 months and see if they want to come back in spring, or do we fill up a route and then they go out and the first 20-degree day they say, forget this, I quit. So, you're still going to lose people in the winter no matter what, even if you have work for them or not, because they're probably not going to want to do the work. So
that's a good point.
One thing that I think I'm going to be looking at is college kids. And the reason I say this is we've had a few in the past that I've managed that, if you get the right kid, he's only in town for, his summer breaks or his spring breaks, things like that, enough to where he wants to come hustle, make a good paycheck or two. And then by the time he goes back to school, you're starting to get into that lull where maybe you can handle the workload by yourself, or, wintertime, he's busy. He doesn't have to worry about working. By the time, spring break comes around, he's not upset that he wasn't working because he couldn't have been working, I guess is the nice thing about that. When you need them the most, when they're looking for work.
That's the company I started out with back in 2001. It was a great company. Great. The guy just had a way of dealing with people. He seemed to just attract the best people, not only with clients, but with employees as well. He had a crew of about 7 or 8, and every single one of them started late high school or early college, and he would get them for 5, 6, 7 years. He'd get them for those last 2 years of high school. They'd be with him every summer during the huge rush, and then they'd stay with him all the way through college. In my case, I probably should have a doctorate for how long I stayed in college, a master's degree or something, but I never achieved those degrees. But I stayed with him for 5 years. I didn't start in high school. I started just after high school with him, but I stayed with him all throughout college every summer, and I looked forward to it. And when I had the time, when my schedule allowed, when he started getting busy in the spring, I would actually pick my classes in a way where I'm at school 2.5 days a week, so I could work the other 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and then even go back on Saturday to work for him. I just enjoyed it, and I knew early on I was not going to get anything out of college. I was just kind of there for the extracurricular activities. But finding those people, it seems to be getting a little bit more difficult with the high school age kids, and it's maybe because the town I live in now, I didn't grow up here. The town that my old boss worked in, he's lived there his whole life. So he had all these connections for his daughter's kids and his friends' kids. So he seemed to be always getting fed really, really good employees. And he had I don't know if you want to say that that's a big advantage, but I think, it definitely played a role in his ability to hire and to maintain that help.
Absolutely.
Over those years.
My previous employer was, very involved in his church, and that's how he usually had his steady flow of applicants, young kids, because it was always, the grandson or the nephew or the son of friends at church. And the nice thing there is you kind of know what you're getting to an extent if you're doing that. The bad thing is if it doesn't work out so well, and now you're kind of, a little awkward the next Sunday morning at the church pew there. But, I think it was a good idea for him to kind of reach out to people in his community to find young kids. Hey, I'll work your son if he's looking for a job. I honestly don't know where I'm gonna be in a similar boat to you, where he's got a better advantage as far as finding those people as opposed to me. I live in a very, very rural area. I don't actually do many jobs in my own hometown just because it's farmland out here. I usually travel a couple counties over to get to the higher income areas. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do for employees, but they're out there somewhere.
a great piece of advice I just picked up at the IWCA convention. This is one that stuck with me. I either wrote it down or took a picture of the screen on the slideshow. The one gentleman that spoke, he said what he did when he was trying to recruit, he sent an email to existing clients. We're trying to grow our team. You know, if you know anybody who might be interested. So now you're reaching out to your clientele already who know your reputation as they're not going to give you a bad person. So if they do have someone, you're getting someone that they think is going to be reputable and serve your business well. And he said the other thing that happened, so you get people that would say, I don't have anybody, sorry, nobody came to mind. Or, you get the person that would give you a potential candidate. And then the people that would decline, no, I don't have anybody for you, but I'm so glad you reached out to me. We'd love to have you come back to clean our windows again. So he found like a little loophole there. It was such a great marketing tool where not only are you getting a few potential employees, you're also sending a reminder at the same time for your clients to book another appointment. So it ended up kind of where, and that's when that stuck with me. I wrote that down. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to try that route, because a lot of the communities that I do work in, they're small, tight knit communities. It's a lot of, I have one real high end community where these people come for 3 or 4 months out of the year. And if you can get one of their, you get one of them to send you a potential employee, it'd be a huge score for that. But also, it'd be nice to get those jobs twice a year rather than once a year. So if you send that reminder out and bang, you get a bite on that. That could be a big benefit as well.
Plus, they want to make sure the company succeeds because you're paying their kid. So
Yep.
You want Junior to get a paycheck, you better get on the schedule here. Let's do this.
So yeah, that was a real interesting thing, and that one really struck me as something that I'm definitely going to implement this year with reaching out to clients to see if they have anybody that they would recommend.
Yeah,
and
I do.
so let's we're running against the clock here. I think we probably got about 10-15 minutes left. There's a couple more things I wanted to go through here. One, the reason we ended up on this chat together, I wanted to do an interview with my nominee for the Flowmie Award. As you know, this is the first year we did the Flowmie Awards. You pick, as an administrator, we each picked one person that kind of embodied the, what it is to be a Flowmie, what it is to be into the flow community, being helpful, being positive. But there's a lot more to it than that for me. And, you're always someone that I respected in the groups right from the get-go. And it wasn't even in the Into the Flow group. We interacted in the Pro Window group probably 3 or 4 years ago. But you were one of those people. I have a pretty good BS radar. So you have to sort through a lot of the BS in that group, but I also have a good radar for someone who knows what they're talking about. And you were always one of those people that kind of struck me as, all right, this guy, he's highly skilled, he's intelligent, he knows this business inside and out, and he's made the rounds enough. So every time I would see something, a post pop up where someone was looking for advice, and I would see a comment from you in there, it was just one that I was always drawn to, because I knew that you knew what you were talking about. And when you said you were going to start your own business, I was so excited. I was so happy for you, because I just assumed you had your own business right from the jump based on your experience, and to watch you take your business from 2019, where, like I said, the economy was at a peak, and then to survive through one of the most tumultuous years, 2 years that the United States has ever gone through, is really just a testament to your resilience, your work ethic, your dedication, and your skill. So I just wanted to give you kind of a minute to just tell me how what does that mean to you to get that award, and It's yours.
It means a
The
whole
stage
lot.
is yours.
It means a whole lot. And, the nice words you just said about me, I still have a hard time seeing it as it's a testament of anything but my dumb luck that I made it this far so far. But yeah, I do appreciate you, at a time when, we were both in the pro group a lot at that point, I really did want to help. I felt I had been kind of blessed with meeting some really knowledgeable old dogs in the industry. And, the questions that I would always respond to weren't questions that they weren't new. Basically, they were questions that I asked at some point, and the knowledge that I gave them was the answer that somebody else gave me. I felt like anything I've learned in my job, whether it's experience or education, it's knowledge that I'm renting. It's only fair to give it to somebody else, and so that's why I've never really had a problem jumping in and being that BSing with people and giving my opinions or my experience with some of the situations they run into. And for you guys to kind of pick me out for that, to me it didn't even seem like something that was that special. I just, like I said, I felt like I was just passing, like playing Chinese telephone. I'm just passing the information that was given to me on down the line.
But it seemed like something in those particular groups and in those particular interactions where someone was asking for advice or someone was asking for, just a little bit of more experience. And oftentimes the good stuff, like you and others would contribute, would get drowned out by the bad stuff. And it was just, that was one thing that was frustrating to me, where every good comment you get where someone was actually trying to be helpful, you'd get 5 negative comments or 5 trolls who just came in to bash the person and call them an idiot because they don't know. And I just dealt with this yesterday on another group where someone was asking a simple question about how to reinsert the clips in the Sorbo channel. And I remember the first time I got my first Sorbo channel, I wasn't paying attention when I took the rubber out. I just ripped the rubber out. One clip fell on the ground, and then I was like, oh, I went to put the other one back in, and I'm looking at it like, I don't like which little knob does it slide over? Does it go in the front or the back? Like, I'd never dealt with a channel like that before. So it took me a couple seconds and a few tries to figure it out. And these, people just jumped down this guy's throat. Sure. And it's frustrating to me to watch someone that is reaching out to a group of professionals for a little bit of advice and just a small little tip like that, and just to have people jump down their throat and be so negative and demeaning to them. But you were never that person, and that's one of the things that drew me to you early on. And it's not just your knowledge and your dedication to helping the window community, but like I said, your resilience. You've also dealt with your own personal health struggles while trying to maintain and start up a business, and you've managed to come out on top of that. And I admire that so much, your resilience and your ability to overcome all these obstacles that have been thrown in your way. So that's the reason why I nominated you for the award, is just, you just keep coming back. And it's just such a pleasure to watch someone just keep overcoming every little hurdle that's thrown in their way. You love to see it.
I do just keep coming back. My mom used to complain about that all the time too. I really do appreciate the kind words. And honestly, what the Flowmie Award means to me more than anything is being recognized by a group of people that I admire greatly, for many different and also many similar reasons. You, Gabe, Kevin, Beba, Sarah, the whole ITF crew, Joel, there's and even people that aren't admins. The spirit of ITF is kind of like what you were talking about. The spirit of ITF is we're going to help each other. We're going to build each other up. We're going to, we're going to crack jokes. We're not always going to agree, but we're going to try to find a way to work it out.
But we celebrate each other's successes, which is also a big thing. And then, watching, you've succeeded in the last 2 years at doing something that a lot of people don't succeed at. A lot of people go out on their own and they'll fail. And a lot of people that were faced with the circumstances you were faced with in the last 2 years between the pandemic and your, your own personal issues that you had to deal with health wise. I know you spent quite a bit of time in the hospital trying to get your body right. Some people just, I would say not some people, most people will not overcome that. And it's just, it's just a testament to your character and to who you are, which is really, it's a special thing. So it is to be celebrated. And I'm just happy to have the opportunity to nominate you for that.
It is much appreciated, Kory. I really do thank you for that. And
well, you deserve it.
I'm in my office now. Otherwise, I'd show you my Flowmie award. As embarrassing as it might be, it's on my nightstand in my bedroom. It's got the place of
no embarrassment. No embarrassment. I got my little trophies and my little knickknacks up and around as well. But yeah, so there's one last thing here, and we're up against the clock. I just wanted to do. There's one last little fun thing. It's a little rapid fire. It's just I'm gonna give you two options. You're gonna just shout one out. All right. It's all window cleaning related, or close to window cleaning related. There's a couple little oddball things in here. But hopefully, we spark a little bit of a discussion here to wrap up with. So here we go. You ready? You ready to rock? Dish soap or window solution?
Window solution. That's new.
Ettore or Unger?
Ettore.
Pole or ladder?
Ladder.
Surgical cloth, microfiber?
Surgical.
Hard rubber, soft rubber?
Soft.
Residential or commercial?
Resi.
Gutter cleaning, soft washing?
Soft washing.
Storefront, high rise?
Storefront for me.
All right. Construction cleaning or glass restoration?
Run away. Construction cleaning. Yes.
Construction clean. I'm with you on that one. All right, here's the last one. Ready to we're going to set the alarms off here. Traditional or water fed?
Oh, well, let me just put it to you this way. I didn't get He-Man. I got my Skeletor and my He-Man pictures, and I didn't get Skeletor with the water fed tattooed on my leg. I got He-Man with the squeegee. So I won't say the word.
Squeegee.
But I'm just gonna, try. I love my water fed stuff, but I'm always gonna be a trad guy until I'm not rocking anything anymore.
I'm with you on that one. I had a feeling you were going to go that route. The water fed is an amazing tool, though. I will say I've been in the water fed side for almost 4 years now. I'm going into my 4th year now, and it's really a time saver on so many different things. Especially, I deal with a lot of cut ups, deal with a lot of salt where I'm at, coming off the water. The ocean does a number on the glass, and it really just cuts through a lot of that stuff so much quicker. But I love putting my tool belt on and loading up my squeegees, and I'm a trad guy till I die. There's no way around that.
And and I will say this about water fed. I think a lot of the times you get guys that they try it once or twice. They obviously don't have the skill level with the tools as they do with their trad stuff. And frankly, it's just the path of least resistance to keep doing what you know best. But honestly, once I started actually practicing with it a little more and kind of looking into what, other than just here's my cart, here's my pole, here's my brush, what other accessories, what other things like a pump or, a steel or a bronze wool scrub pad, what other things can I add to this? And it just keeps getting better and better from that standpoint. But
it does.
From a satisfaction standpoint, nothing like a squeegee. You don't get
nothing like a squeegee.
Customers with a water fed pole. That's all I'm saying.
And your face to glass, you can you see it in real time from the ground. It's got to drip dry, and then you got to go back and inspect it. It's not the immediate instant gratification with the water fed pole that it is with the squeegee, but it's also the art of window cleaning. I think is in the squeegee, and
Absolutely.
The water fed pole. I'll tell you what, I'm very spoiled using the water fed pole, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, I'm still going to throw the ladder up. I'm going to go up and I'm going to do it by hand. And it
There
might
are-
not be always the quickest route, but I'm still, until I can't climb the ladder anymore or throw it up on my shoulder, I'm going to keep climbing. I'm going to keep squeegeeing
It's part
until
of my
the day I
workout
die, because I love.
Absolutely. It keeps me younger. It keeps me in shape. Once again, it's fun. It's a way for me to enjoy my day. But I will admit there are more and more jobs that I'm looking at. Do I pull the 40-foot off the truck? Of course not.
Oof.
Let's get the water fed going here. So I'm at a point now where I think anything 3-piece stack or lower, I'm probably going to still end up doing trad unless we're talking just a huge job or a lot of French pains. But anything above that, water fed pole without a doubt.
Yeah. And I still find, a lot of guys swear by the speed of the water fed pole, not having to put the ladder up, but on a 2 stories and under on a lot of windows, I still feel that I'm faster traditional than I am with the pole. Especially like if I'm on a job with a bunch of casement windows or even, 1/1 double hung windows, I feel like I'm going to blow away the water fed pole with the traditional. And maybe it's, maybe I'm just still too new to the water fed pole. I don't have that speed that some of these guys have, but tell you what, I put that ladder up and just fly around the house, and I just as soon do that, 7 days a week if I'm on those jobs than to take the pole out and try to do them, because it doesn't seem as quick to me sometimes.
I think you're onto something with the whole skill level where you and I are at. I remember doing a job with my old crew, and we had a ton of blackout glass windows to do, and it was basically a 3rd-story commercial building. We had the water fed set up on one side, and I was just kind of supervising for the most part. So just as to play a fun little game, somehow we got into I've got my old-fashioned aluminum pole with my Ed-Ray backflip on it, and they've got the water fed pole, and we're going to do a little race, like John Henry versus the machine here. And I ended up winning that race. But honestly, it was me at that point, maybe 17, 18 years in as a window cleaner versus some guys who are still learning not only just their equipment, but their trade in general. So, there is something to consider there that I think once you and I and guys like us start getting more and more experience and practice with that technology, I think it's going to become definitely more viable, and it will be.
You're probably right. But we'll hang on to that belt as long as we can hang on to that.
That's exactly it. I'm never selling
as long as there's still. Absolutely. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. I think we're up over an hour now. Really appreciate you coming on, having a chat. I think we left a few things on the table there in my discussion. I know I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the creative content, but we're going to have to save that for another Flowmie discussion. We'll talk about some stickers and things like that. Yeah, we'll do another one. We'll absolutely do it again. But Anthony, I really appreciate you coming on. It was a pleasure to chat with you, and wish you the best in 2022 and beyond. And look forward to watching you grow.
Awesome, Kory. It's been a blast. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to seeing what the future holds for everyone. It's going to be a good year.
It is going to be a good year. All right. Cheers, Anthony. Thank you.
All right, brother. Take care.